I'm not denying that human beings aren't fascinating and interesting and all that crap. But no, we are built by nature. And it's so obvious in our psychology. Our psychology is completely wrapped around so much bullshit. I mean, it's just so obvious. Our affections, our attachments, our preferences and prejudices are just so obviously arbitrary often, but so much. And if they're not arbitrary, there's so much woven into this idea of getting us to behave in a certain manner because it was productive 10,000 years ago, or because it was productive 70,000 years ago, not because it has any meaning today. And so certainly we could erase so much bigotry, we could erase so much bullshit that comes out of human beings if we just acknowledge that that's 70,000-year-old bullshit. That's a psychology that worked 70,000 years ago. It's not a psychology enlightened human beings have any use for. I don't have any use for those kinds of stupid attachments and fears and revulsions, or whatever you want to call them. I don't. We're much better off without them, and we're much better off being able to rationally define who we're going to be. But that's the real challenge, is that it's hard to do that. It's hard to recondition yourself. But at minimum, what you can always do is be aware that you're an asshole, that you have a psychology to overcome. And if people will do that minimum, we will have a better world. But we're not going to have one if you keep endorsing the package, if you keep saying the package makes sense. Because the package was built for a different world and a different time. And the only thing that's, like I said, the only thing that gives us any kind of, the greatest parts of humanity, the greatest parts of being human, fucking 12 minutes, how could I be that far over? Well, I'll just make it 2 parts, I don't care. So anyway, I do care. I mean, I'm sorry to do that. I just got way too wordy. But yeah, I mean, I know you think you're doing human beings a favor by trying to make them more comfortable, or trying to make them more at ease, and as you said, letting go and the blissfulness and all this other crap. But it's false hope. It's a false future. It's a false possibility, because that's not going to work. It is not the nature of human beings to be these wonderful creatures you try to keep saying they are. And the only way they can be wonderful creatures is when they are disciplined by a philosophy that tells them better, that informs them better. So anyway, it's just, you just keep, I mean, these truths, I think you know these truths. I mean, I think you know that when you invent a condom, you disrupt natural selection. You break it, okay? And that there's no longer a connection between biology and success when you do things like that. And intelligence has changed the game. And you can't sit there and try to cram intelligence into this natural selection mold, because it isn't part of the game anymore. There's a new game when intelligence is changing and evolving. It evolves by a different rule, and eventually it can perfect itself, unlike biology, because intelligence has as its goal truth. Intelligence has as its goal defining it perfectly, and perhaps creating perfectly, or at least attempting to. That's its rational and reasonable objective, is to perfect things, to fix them, to eliminate the inefficiencies. However you want to define perfection in terms of a pragmatic definition anyway. I mean, if you get rid of the inefficiencies, you've achieved a kind of perfection. And intelligence is capable of that. But biology isn't, because there isn't any such thing as perfection, because biology doesn't have a rational goal. Its ambition isn't the truth. Its ambition isn't efficient system design, because it doesn't even have any capacity to even appreciate the values that go into it. It doesn't know how much, it doesn't even know fuel is a thing being consumed. It doesn't have any idea what the fuel is, and doesn't have any idea what a profit is beyond the simple notion that it succeeded, it survived. That's all it cares about. It survived, therefore it's good. Period. It doesn't go any further than that. But obviously we can look at biology and come up with a better definition of perfection, and if we were to refine our biology, if we were to establish a standard for what perfection in biology would be, it would certainly have somewhere in that equation we would say things like, well, it's certainly got to have less pain and more pleasure. I mean, that you know, there's got to be an efficient consumption of that thing called suffering, not a grotesquely inefficient production of it. And so biology will never care about those things. Only intelligence can care about those things. So, enough said.